computer is picking up a strange signal. Here, sir, you better take a look at it.
Hello dear listener, and welcome to another episode of Life Through a Prism with your host Rob Tierney. And today we're welcoming back Merran Thurley. And last episode we started her journey, 50 plus year journey with guide dogs, and we looked at Boyd in the last episode. And welcome back, Merran.
Oh, thank you so much.
Nice to have you back. So, as I was just mentioned, we looked at your first guide dog, Boyd. So, who are we going to be talking about today?
Today we're going to talk about Buffy.
Oh, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, before Buffy was the Vampire Slayer.
Yes, before that, I reckon.
Yeah. So, in what year did you have Buffy?
Buffy arrived in my life in January 1977. And Boyd had retired Boyd had retired in about November the previous year. Mm-hmm. And I was scheduled for a class in early to mid-January, which would go over into the first weeks of February.
In the last episode, listener, if you hadn't heard, you went to Melbourne for the first dog. Did you have to go back to Melbourne again?
Oh yes.
Right. So we're going back to Melbourne. Yep.
We are. And this time I went back, and there was only 4 people in the class, much better handled, because there was not so many things that. Well, it's amazing how much can go wrong.
No plane strike.
No, this time it was a straightforward process. This time was obviously, I had a little bit more knowledge this time around, because obviously I'd done it before. And so I settled in, and this time it went as it should. We arrived on Saturday, as it always was, and probably I think Tuesday morning it was, we each received our dogs, and it was a morning too. So I had Buffy. And
what breed of dog was Buffy?
Buffy was a full Labrador. She was a yellow lab, they termed it.
Okay.
So I'm surprised, I think it was the lighter colour in that range probably. Yeah, so we started out together, and she was very good at her work, was Buffy. But when it came to doing anything like free running, the only ear that probably ever heard anything was the one in the middle of her head, which then made the decision about what it wanted to do rather than what we wanted it to do.
Right.
So that was a bit of fun. My dad called her a blooming Mexican jumping bean, that dog. She did actually do very good guide dog work. So that was it was such a turn too. I wouldn't have expected it to be such like that, but it was.
Did you sort of like after with Boyd, was there a connection straight away with Buffy, or did that have to grow?
Oh no, that has to grow. It's sometimes it's a complete turnaround. Sometimes you know what you want to do. The dog probably knows what it can do. But getting those things to actually work together for a little while is just a little difficult. And then you have to, and every time there was a new class group, there was some new language, new words that you needed to use. And I'm afraid these days they all get muddled up. I've met so many that it doesn't really matter now. And she get on, bit of more of a bark artist. This one wanted to, yes. But when she graduated, as she eventually did, with all the others in time, and we came back to Tasmania. The instructor actually came with us that time, in terms of the elderly gentleman who lived in Hobart, or out of Hobart, got a dog too, and she was a gorgeous thing. That was a lucky situation for him, that they did have to change in the middle of the course. It was a dog that had been selected. It wasn't doing what they expected it would do.
Okay.
And he was a very elderly gentleman, and was more slow. More slow in pace and more slow in activity. He wanted that little bit of time. So, and the dog they gave him in the end worked perfectly for the time that it needed to.
How old were you at this time?
By this time, let me see, 77. Oh, must have been about 27 by then.
So, how did Buffy go when she got home?
Well, Buffy, when she got home, immediately disappeared out back, and once she was see where the garden was, off she went. And apples she was up. We had an apple tree.
Oh, okay.
And she'd go and pick them, or pick them up off the ground if they'd managed to fall. And once again, there was sometimes livestock in those apples, but and I'm not really sure what she did about that. But she was great for doing. She loved apples and she loved cardboard boxes.
Oh,
Each of my dogs have had a funny thing about something, and she was into pulling boxes to pieces.
Oh, okay.
Oh, lovely it was.
Now, what happened to Boyd once he retired?
Boyd,
you did something that you've never done
that's
since.
That's right.
Yeah.
Boyd, because he was a particular kind of dog, he was a one-owner dog. He would not have gone anywhere else happily without me. And we'd had built an extra room onto the house while he was with me. He would not go in there because it was different.
Okay.
He wouldn't. And as good as he was at lots of things, that was one thing. And I knew then there was no way that I could find a home for him or allow guide dogs to, because he simply wouldn't go there. And the instructor said so himself. He said it's a indicated it was pretty much a one-owner dog. So he stayed with us until his death.
So how did he go with Buffy? How did they get along?
There's a little bit of toing and froing, a bit of jealousy, because he wanted still to be doing the job that she was doing. But I believe they seemed to settle their differences in that aspect eventually. And then he became very much he was a lone dog in a way, because by then he wasn't feeling terribly well, and a few times at night I found him. He'd be wanted to stay outside, and then I had to go and see if he was all right before I went to sleep. And and then when I had to go to Melbourne to do some long cane training, because I had not done any O&M, mobility and orientation stuff, so I had to. I'm going to go to Melbourne to do that, and I took Buffy with me, of course. I think he tried to wait till I came home. I'll never know that, but he died of a heart attack. And
how old was Boyd?
He would have been about 12, and that'd be good for a big dog like that. That was really good innings.
So just how? I mean, we're back in 1977, and I mean, there's a lot of controversy these days with taking animals on plane and guide dogs and stuff like that. How was that back in the early days? Was it easy being able to take a guide dog?
They had, I think it was mostly Ansett that transported them.
Just for listeners who don't know, Ansett was a Australian airline that was around for years, and it folded. So yeah.
Yes, they usually carried us, and there was a gentleman that I knew here who had a number of jobs, but he was working for Ansett. One of his jobs was to meet all the guide dog and guide dog teams that were going through, and he did. So when I met him later in life, he said, "I remember you," and I had to remember back to that day. That he was there, and it was so great. And he became a blind man himself, and he actually did have a guide dog towards the end of his life. And they actually asked me, would I think a man in his early 70s could do it? I said, if you're feeling fit and well, and you walk about a lot and you're doing all these things, you make the decision, not your family. You make your own decision about that. I know they'd like you to have one.
You were working at this time?
Yes, I was working then.
So
yes.
what was your job at that time that you took Buffy with?
My job at that time was as reception, probably switchboard operations really, for what was Devonfield Industries in those days, for the workshop.
So
yes.
What was Devonfield Industries?
Devonfield was a a workshop for people mostly intellectual disability, it seems. I don't know whether it was strictly true to be that, but there was a lot of them. A lot of the lads that worked in the workshop had various various disabilities, mostly in that particular area. And I was working there at the time, and so Buff sort of fitted into all of that. And I then my dad used to, because of its distance for anywhere else in Devonport at the time, Dad used to pick me up after work, and I'd go down to my grandmother's and see her sometimes, and I would walk home from there, or walk down there if it came to that. It depended on what we were doing, and so that was good for her. And we met a few of the other local Northwest Coast guide dogs, and they had a little committee those days, and we raised funds and did a lot of other things for the people who were in need of guide dogs, and the organisation itself within Tasmania. So that was another outlook, and that meant that you were going to see one or two other guide dogs on a regular basis. So and that actually did work very well, and I was quite pleased about that, because it could have been quite a messy business, dogs knowing each other and wanting to catch up.
So is there one sort of memory of Buffy that that sticks out for you?
Actually, there is. And then I was doing a secretarial course at the Devonport Community College. Or TAFE it is really, but it was known as the Devonport Community College at that stage. And Buffy used to, she even knew when the bell was about to go, and she'd get up and she'd go next door, and to the classroom next door. Oh yes, grab a piece of paper and whatever, and then she'd come back to me, and as soon as that happened, you time your watch by her. Off it'd go, and would be time to go time for lunch or recess or whatever. It was incredible. Oh dear. And she used to do that quite frequently.
So how long did you have Buffy for?
I had Buffy for 5 years.
Okay. Yeah, so that was shorter than
Oh yes.
Floyd?
And it was very much shorter because she was not well.
Okay.
And first thing I just said was a tiny little lump I found. I asked the vet, well, the vet said there's nothing really there. There wasn't any other indication of anything at that stage. That was about Christmas time, 81, 82. And then she deteriorated, and it was obvious that there was something wrong. And the local vet seemed to think it was something that the organisation would need to deal with. Anyway, the beginning, yes, that's right. Where were we going? Going somewhere. I know. No, I know what it was. They put together a week's holiday on the Gold Coast for a few of them, and they all went off, and the young O&M instructor that went with them, that was his mobility and orientation instructor, with them, took Buffy to Melbourne for me, to the veterinary school, or the veterinary hospital out at Werribee. So they did that, and they rang me back later in the day to tell me that it was cancer, that she'd lost a hip, and what was left there was just, well, nothing really. And it completely destroyed it, and it was terminal. And what did I want them to do? They had a family who would look after her for 6 months. Crazy. Well, no, that was my feeling it was at the time. And I said, well, no. I said, if she's got to wait for 6 months with the pain she must be having, that's just not on. So they did do what the alternative was, and then rang me back to tell me it was done. And I said, that's okay, thank you very much. And I was on the verge of going to the mainland for an international conference, and which I did do, and it was held up in Sydney, at the Hilton, as I remember rightly. And I'm so glad I didn't have to have a dog with me then, because I hated the escalator, and it was the only way to get up into the the reception area.
So did you have somebody that went with you?
Oh yes, there was
Yep.
a group of us went over from the club
Yep.
all together. So and we actually stopped off. I picked up a car and from Melbourne, and then wended our way through to Gundagai and then over to Gerringong, which is near Nowra, and then on up to Sydney. Yeah, so it was a bit of a loss without her, but there you go. I went into Melbourne on my way home, and I had one suitcase with me. I had stuff that I sent home, and had another lot arrive from Devonport. So we were covering the type of weather that Melbourne can throw at you at that time of the year. And this is August, by this stage, getting into early August. That was the day that I met Shannon.
And listeners, if you can hear the bang, 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 bang,
Yes.
Kayla has just come to say hello as we wrap up. So we'll leave that there for today.
Yes.
Merran, you'll come back and you'll tell us some more, share some more.
Oh, yes, I've got more stories
Yep.
for you.
Okay, dear listener, well, thank you very much for listening. Until next time, take care and bye for now.